On this week's show, we're discussing PlayStation acquiring a major stake in FromSoftware, parent company, Indiana Jones going third person, and more Call of Duty coming to Game Pass. All that and much, much more on this week's GamerGuild Podcast with Christmas. Good game, everyone, and welcome back to your weekly show, the GamerGuild Podcast, where we get together and round up all of the week's video game news for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/GamerGuildTV. Also available up there in the digital clouds on your podcast preference of choice. Every Monday, 8 a.m, we go live to bring you all of the juicy stories rounded up. Of course, it's a Christmas week this week, and your merry, merry Christmas elves are myself, Chris, at Arcane Rogue, and the man of many gifts, Mr. Richie.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas indeed, because this episode goes up on Monday, just before the festive period kicks off, and we welcome you all to join us and celebrate, even though it is a Christmas week going into 2025. Of course, we never miss a beat here on the channel, and Richie, this is our 442nd podcast.
It is.
Not consecutively, but we have not missed a Monday in nearly, over 5 years now. I don't know how we do it sometimes, but here we are recording during our time off to bring you the special. A quick footnote for next week, it is a pre-recorded episode, so as usual, we like to take a little bit of time off, but we don't want you to miss out on the content. So next week's episode will still go live at the usual time, and it will be our big Game of the Year episode where me and Richie sit down and talk about all the things we played for the year, what our Game of the Year is, and we'd love you to be a part of that conversation as well. So do head over to our Discord, do head over to the comments section of this one, and let us know what your top playing games of the year have been. As a little addition to that, Richie, with our Game of the Year, I feel like I've played a lot of older games this year round, like not necessarily came out this year.
All right. So do you want to have almost two each, where this is my favorite game that came out this year, and this is my favorite game of the year that I played this year?
I feel so.
And split it like that.
Yeah,
that might be good for our audience as well, because I know a lot of them play older games as well.
Yeah, it's that thing as more games come out, just indefinitely for the future, there's always going to be more to go back to, and I think as we kind of get older, we have become more selective over what we play and the genres we check out.
It's just time, really,
and time more than anything. Yes, I was looking back at my list, and I've played a lot this year still, but I've crossed out the ones that aren't kind of in for this year's Game of the Year because they came out years ago in the past, and obviously for the channel, I've done a lot of retro stuff.
I've done I've went back and done a lot of older games this year, actually. And especially during the summer, there was a bit of a lull while waiting for games I was interested to come out.
Absolutely, yeah. The summer seems to be where I hit up just a ton of the PlayStation kind of relaunches on PS Plus. So Jak and Daxter, Sly Raccoon, Daxter. I did them back to back, just those short old platformers. And I had a great time with them. So I feel like I definitely want to dedicate some time to talk about them rather than just not acknowledge them. At the bottom of my list.
This is it. It's our Game of the Year episode. We can do whatever we want with it.
I mean, we're not going to do a Jeff Keighley. There is going to be no DLC in Game of the Year, and our actual Game of the Year will be from 2024. But we'll have a little.
I played any DLC.
Yeah, but we'll have a little side category, Richie, for our top pick that from maybe yesteryear, Game of the Year. We need to come up with a cool name for it. But yeah, we'll be talking about that all this week, of course. But we do have a great show lined up for you this week, as I mentioned, talking about a couple of bits of news as the games industry slows down as we head into next year and beyond. But we do have a couple of great things lined up for the channel. Of course, we're still celebrating passing our 2K subscriber mark. Thank you again to everyone who tuned in, checked us out over the course of 2024. We did set that goal for the end of the year to get in there with it, and we did it. We pipped it. We got in there. So yes, wonderful stuff.
Nice way to round out the year for us.
It is. It's a great way to round it out. And as I said, Merry Christmas. It's upon us. We've had probably a busy week, Richie, where we wind down towards some time off work. Hopefully we've squeezed some time in playing. Hopefully you out there have squeezed some time in to play games, and you've got some big plans to chill out, relax, see the family, share with your loved ones, and play some video games, more importantly. Richie, before we get into said busy period, what have you been playing this past week?
So it has been a busy one for me this week, not necessarily in gaming, between getting the last minute bits of Christmas shopping done, and I'm technically at work today when this podcast goes out. I break up Monday the 23rd, so I haven't quite broken up yet. So I've been playing mainly bits of Metaphor. I don't know if I brought it up in last week's podcast, but I now have the Platinum in Astrobot.
I think you mentioned it on the live stream.
Oh, I have played DLC this year.
You lied. You lied to our audience.
So the annoying thing for Chris must be, actually, that the Christmas DLC came out for Astrobot. I've completed it and you haven't, and I have your copy of the game.
Yeah, the downside of physical media is when you lend it out to people, you got to hope to get it back within a certain time frame. I used to do that all the time when you'd lend it to your mates at school, and they'd just keep it well beyond probably what was realistic.
Yeah.
But
you know what? I'll see it. I'll actually see you at football tonight. I'll bring it for you.
We'll get there. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It would be nice to check out some Christmas DLC before Christmas is over.
It's good.
It kind of feels flat playing it in January where it's like, it's no longer a thing. But
spoilers, but you get a Santa outfit.
I've seen the trailer bit. It looks great, the baubles and the Christmas, like just very festive.
It's the first thing you're opening in the level, so it's not really much of a spoiler.
Nice. And and I've got the speed mission run things to do. So I know we don't tend to schedule live streams over the Christmas period, but if I do have some downtime, I might just jump on and just stream them or do something. So keep your eyes out.
That'll be a short live stream. You can do them all in 5 minutes.
5 minutes each?
No,
just the whole
5
thing.
minutes for them all. Yeah.
Right.
So when you complete them all, it comes up with a timer for how long it took you to complete them all.
Right.
So you're looking about 5 minutes. Obviously, if you take multiple goals, which you will, it'll be longer. But
interesting. All right, and so plenty to play, plenty to check out. I remember when you used to rent games, like that was still a thing.
Yes,
I feel like
you never finished them because
I feel like
for a weekend.
Sharing games is that I've basically turned into my Blockbuster between you, your girlfriend, and my brother. I feel like I have about 10 games out on loan at the moment. Some Blu-rays as well.
We need to get back to Lego Horizons actually because we haven't played it in a few weeks.
Well, that's good. It's fairly short. You get that box stuff over the Christmas period. But you've been playing anything? You said Metaphor. You've been playing anything in between, or is that still your dedicated thing till the end of time?
That's my main game. Other than that, I've been chipping away just at Pokemon trading card game.
Oh yeah,
they brought out a new booster pack. So it's. Well, you know how you had like the 3 booster packs to begin with?
Yeah.
They brought out a 4th one, but it's a different, from a different set. This is like Island Adventure or something.
Right.
So I've been working through getting that one. And with it, they brought like some more like battle challenges and stuff. So I've been chipping away.
See, what's really weird for me, I've completely stopped playing it.
Yeah.
But more so, I think it's because it stopped giving me notifications. I think, the 2-week trial we both got.
Oh, yeah.
When that ended, it almost must have reset the app or did something where I no longer get notifications. So I think just in my general day-to-day, because I'm not getting a little pop-up saying, oh, there's a booster pack available, it's not led me to open up the app. And then now like a week plus has passed and I'm like, I'm not missing it in a way. I do have a pack to open.
Yeah, I found for me, it's like when I've got like this odd half an hour, something like Metaphor, it's kind of a narratively heavy game. You can't really play it for just like 20 minutes here or there. So this is where I play a lot. Like first thing in the morning, while I'm sorting myself out, I'm opening my booster packs for the day.
Yeah, I mean that's
just falling part of my routine.
That's what I was doing. And then, like I said, without the prompt, I think I just crack on with my day and forget about it. But I was like you, systematically like checking it every time the 12 hours was up. I was saving up the little timers to get some more time in, I guess, to open up more packs.
I'm not going to buy like the premium pass because I just for what you get, I just do not think it's worth it. It's something like £6-7 a month, and all you get is like one extra booster pack.
Yeah, it's not enough.
It's like that is just totally not worth it. It's just. If it was £1 or £2, I probably would. It's one of them where like what you've done there is by setting your price, you priced me out of being even consideration.
Yeah, Nintendo are usually quite good for that. Like with Switch Online, it's quite reasonable for the whole year. But I feel like, in fact, is this more expensive than Switch Online?
Yeah, it actually is. I didn't even click into that, but like Switch Online is like £30 for a year.
So if you think of
the booster pack,
so if you think of the value proposition.
Yeah,
that's quite mad actually. But I guess different worlds, isn't it? Mobile Pokemon to Switch Online. But yeah, so I've dipped out with that one. I'm not really playing anything on my mobile at the moment. I'm still practicing my French. That's the one thing where I do get notifications. I'm on like a 242-day streak of learning French. So
what's French for? Got to catch them all.
No idea.
You get back to your French lessons.
I'm
you clearly don't know important things.
I don't. Yeah, it's not quite came up yet in the basic vocabulary things. But yeah, so that's my gamification. In terms of what I've been playing this week, it's pretty much been. Actually, it's been a little bit of a split because I've obviously after last week's Helldivers news, had to jump back into Helldivers. How could I not? We had the Game Awards last week, and they stealth dropped it on us, if you remember. So mid fantastic 4-hour show, we got the news. It's like, oh, there's finally a huge update, the biggest update for Helldivers 2, and guess what? It's available now, and it was like both elation and oh no, I'm in the middle of a big AAA game right now to like drop everything and go back for freedom and democracy. So yeah, I went back and checked out some Helldivers 2. Game's still great. That this is kind of what I wanted to pull me back in. New faction, new areas. Some of the things they added, which has been really interesting for me, is they've added like actual urban cities and stuff now. So in the past, you were pretty much over like sprawling landscapes, like different biomes of terrain. So like you get snow levels, you get your desert levels and stuff, and you've got your bugs and your Terminator robots. But this time they added in basically like little deserted cities where it's like semi-demolished buildings and streets. So actually when you're being attacked by the Illuminate, which are basically zombies, they're zombies. So we've got Terminators, we've got bugs, and we've got zombies. You kind of ticked all of the villain tropes of history. Because there's so many of them, but because of the streets now, they're kind of funneled towards you. So in the past, they could kind of attack you from any direction, but now you kind of get a condensed wave of enemies that's like a good 20, 30 of them all funneled down like one little area. And
it can be fun.
It can be fun, but very overwhelming, very quick. And but they've added vehicles in, so you can find like little 4x4 cars in and around the world to pick up, which are pretty much like, you know, when we used to rock around in a Jeep in PUBG. It's like that kind of fun. So 4 of you get in, you got one in a turret, one who's the driver, and 2 can hang out the window. And it drives a little bit like, I've heard loads of people describe it as when you used to get the Warthog in Halo 2, and you're just online and you and your mates are just rocking around, tearing shit up in like urban areas on a space planet. So really, really good. And I've seen the player numbers have like shot through the roof again online. So it's kind of done what it needed to do.
Yeah, sounds like it. Helldivers one of them. It seemed to drop off a bit because the content seemed like it got a bit thin. Mm-hmm. It's like everyone's like, it's an amazing game. We just need some. I think everyone's just waiting for this drop to go back in.
Yeah, I think the developers themselves, again, we've mentioned it many times, but just they got totally caught unawares of how popular this game was.
Yeah,
and they've scrambled to make something. But in a way, I'm glad they didn't rush stuff out, because they could have easily made some quick deals and got stuff out, but they've actually sat on it for a good 9 months nearly. And then went, right, now it's ready.
Yeah, rather than like dropping things piecemeal where it's not going to make much of an impact. Let's go. We're going to hold this back till we're ready to go. Then we'll launch it as a block of content.
Absolutely. And the big kind of bad which came from it is you've seen War of the Worlds, right? Or one iteration of War of the Worlds. Yes. At some point, I'm sure our audience has as well. Basically, what used to be the big bugs, it's now one of the tripods from War of the Worlds. And my word, it's the most cinematic, atmospheric, scary shit I've seen in the game in a long time. So there's often like big fog or cloud storms. In these tripods, you can basically see the shadow off in the distance. And the sound design, I kid you not, the sound design for these tripods is phenomenal. It's like it's not too far off the one from the Tom Cruise movie. It's like really like, it's got like an electronic vibe to it, but it's got that ominous tone where as soon as you hear it in the distance, you panic and start looking where it's at, but you only see the legs come through the smoke. And it's got like a laser that basically cuts through anything, so it's scary as shit. And it's got a shield, so you can't even take it down with like the traditional rockets and stuff. It adds a lot to it. And when you're running away from the little zombie things at street level, and this thing just comes down one of the avenues, it's like proper, like you couldn't script this type of stuff in a game. It just happens. It's great.
Imagine living through like when the War of the Worlds was first, like the first original like radio broadcast. That must have been a moment in time, like for pop culture for people, because it was as like almost like a news broadcast, wasn't it?
Yeah, for
that's
those
how they presented it. So wasn't there like loads of controversies and people thinking it was real?
Yeah, it was. Obviously, I'm sure our audience know because it's part of like our lives growing up. But yeah, it was broadcast as like just on a BBC radio channel as part of like a storytelling. But if you've not listened to War of the Worlds, it's wrote as though it's like in the moment action. And if you missed the intro, that guest goes, welcome to BBC Radio 4. Today we're reading War of the Worlds from who would wrote? Is it? It's not Orson Welles, is it? My mind might go straight to Jeff Wayne because that's Jeff.
George Orwell.
I feel like it might be.
No, I think it is Orson Welles.
Orson Welles. But yeah, my go-to is the Jeff Wayne one. Do with the amazing musical one. That's not the one they play on the radio because people would have probably questioned the news report having music interludes. But yeah, when it was originally broadcast, people thought it was like a real description of like we've been invaded by Martians and shit's happening down in London Common. And people panicked because obviously back then there was no social media. You couldn't go to people. You just hear a broadcast on the radio, and if it sounds like the news, not long after the war, let's remember, it's like a fact, and people were panicking, and people got scared.
So the original novel was written in 1895. Between 1895 and 1897 by H.G. Wells.
H.G. Wells, not Orson Welles, right? Orson
Welles did a cover of it in the radio anthology series.
Right, so that's the one, the adaptation, right? Any relation to each other? Both with Wells, both writers working from the same source material seems very suspect.
And both from different countries. H.G. Wells is born in Kent, and Orson Welles was Wisconsin.
Huh. Oh well.
So I think it's unlikely.
That is interesting, but we should get a War of the Worlds game. Actually, I would give it to the people who just did the Terminator and RoboCop reboots because they seemingly can take old IP and make amazing games. But yeah, so Helldivers is just like, it's got its hooks in me. I'll be playing it over Christmas with my brother and probably some of our guild heroes, actually, if they're out there online. But yeah, it brings it back, and I'm excited to see what's next. We do actually have some news regarding later on because they've done a fantastic crossover with a little bit of controversy, which we'll get to. But then aside from that, Richie, Indiana Jones. I've finished it. Finished the story.
Oh, wow.
So it's wrapped up. I haven't finished the game. There's a lot of like mop-ups, and thankfully for anyone out there who is concerned, after you finish the story you can go back to each individual area and just explore freely and wrap up. So it's going to be one of them where come PlayStation time it looks like an easy platinum because it's just a case of get all the collectibles here, complete all the missions here, find all the hidden mysteries here, and you're done. There's no difficulty, there's no like pain in the ass things from what I've seen.
Are you going to 100% it on Xbox and then platinum it on PlayStation?
So that's the question, isn't it? I don't have the adoration for the achievement system on Xbox that I do for PlayStation. And actually found a couple of times when the achievements were popping up, they're very evasive and loud because they're bright green and they're right in the middle of the screen. And when something's happening, like a cinematic of the end of a chapter, and it goes bling, it does that big noise.
It's in the way. A bit.
It kind of in the way a little bit more. And I don't know if I'm just like biased because I'm a PlayStation trophy hunter kind of guy, but it feels like they're less invasive. But I do wish the developers would do something when they're making the games. If it's an important part of your storytelling, maybe leave it until like a minute after it's happened or died down. Yeah. Just to let the dust settle a little bit on that impactful beat that you were trying to get across to your audience.
Have the trigger to pop the trophy be the end of the cutscene rather than the start of it.
Yeah. Sometimes how often does an achievement or a trophy pop telling you like what you've done before the end of the scenes happen? So it'll go like, defeated the villain, and then like in the clip they're still alive, and you're like, because they haven't been killed off yet or whatever. But yeah, I've actually heard recently the new Sonic movies kind of got that, where the last two have both started with Sega, and then it goes into the movie. The third one doesn't.
Oh,
and it's like, they've missed it. But then at the same time, I've heard the third one starts in quite a dark place, so maybe the tone wasn't quite right. Sega, murder, death, explosions, children dying on the floor with emeralds.
Yeah,
who knows?
I'll put it at the ending then.
Yeah, just put it at the end for the
at the start of the credits. Sega, right there, you guys. We did it, but it just didn't work at the start of the movie.
Yeah, I can't believe we've got 3 Sonic movies already. They've got them out at a clip, haven't they? Just bang, bang.
I've only seen the first one.
The second one's really good. The second one's really fun. And I'm not going to find the time to see 3, so
I probably should watch them at some point. I just, for the first one, I found Sonic as a character just irritating.
Yeah. I mean,
it's like when you're not enjoying the main character, it's like it makes it hard to watch.
Good thing the sequels bring in more characters that are very, very different in terms of personality and character. Keanu Reeves, for example. So yeah, Indiana Jones, Richie finished it. The campaign's probably about 15 hours, I'd say. You can mainline it, and I know I was talking to a couple of folks now on Discord around it, of saying like I accidentally mainlined it when I was in the Vatican area, which is like the first open world-ish area that you get to. And yeah, I was just kind of happily jumping around the missions, bopping around between different side content, exploration. And then I kind of didn't realize it was the main quest, and it was like triggered, and then all of a sudden I'd been moved on in a cutscene. It was like, no, achievements, collectibles, like building up my skill tree, like all gone.
I'm not done exploring. Games need to have that thing where the kind of goes, yeah, if you go through that door, you ain't coming back.
Yeah, I mean, he probably did some like kind of like side comment where it was like, oh no, turning back here, but you know, when you're just in the middle of it and you're not paying attention, you're just too busy fighting Nazis, that kind of thing, as you do on a Friday.
I hate when you're just exploring and you stumble across the main path. It's like, I don't want to go down the main path.
Trigger a cutscene, you're like, oh shit, I've done it, haven't I? And there was a collectible like 5 seconds back that you just happened to walk past.
You saw it in the side room, right? Clock that. I'm going to go in this room first because I know that's there, and go, oh crap.
Yeah, oh crap. But overall though, wow, such a great game. Like the reveal at the end, like as the plot kind of comes to a crescendo. For me, I didn't actually see it coming at all, and they did really good in the source material, like the trailers and stuff, and talking about the game. And they could have marketed the reveal as like a way to get people into this game, especially Indiana Jones fans, and they kept it secret, which I praise them for, because when you get to kind of the grand crescendo, I was like, oh shit, that is cool. And I had a big dumb smile on my face, and really enjoyed it. Varied locations, fun gameplay, great storytelling, and it's one of those things, like, now I've finished it, I feel like I would quite happily sit and watch all of the cutscenes from this game as a movie. Like, if they release this as an animated movie on Netflix or something, people would watch it and they think it's the best thing since Last Crusade. Yeah. So
maybe that's the future for Indiana Jones. Instead of making like live action, to take it into the more animated direction, use Troy Baker to voice them, and that's how you get away with not having them look like Harrison Ford going forward. You don't need to like digitally de-age or change how Troy looks, just to make it animated.
Yeah, but that and the puzzles were fun, the varied environments, and the side characters. Weirdly enough, the side characters really grew on me throughout it. You meet some interesting people, and even the bad guys. They did like the proper campy Nazi stuff, but it just works. And you're like, everyone hates Nazis, so it's like it's really easy to like just hate them. And some of them are quite whimsical. Like, you remember the scene from the trailer where it's like, choo choo, you and your American movies, like that all plays into the character of one of them. And it's fun, and I really just enjoyed it. And I played a lot of this game with just a smile on my face. So I know loads of people in our Discord are like really, really enjoying it as well. So it's definitely going to be in my Game of the Year conversation for next week's episode.
In next week.
Exactly. But it's great. So yeah, that's Indiana Jones done. So now I'm kind of heading to Christmas and think like, what do I do now? I've kind of got an itch to play Uncharted, you know? Like,
go for it.
Not expected. But anything you got lined up, or are you still on just Fantasio for the foreseeable?
It's going to be Metaphor. Indiana Jones is definitely on my list of games I want to play. But this is again like, do I want to save this for PlayStation, or do I? But then I'd have to buy it on PlayStation. I already have it on Xbox, and I don't know. I'm going to figure that out once I've rolled credits on Metaphor.
Something to figure out.
Yeah,
wonderful.
Which is probably going to be out in 100 hours or something.
Brilliant. Well, folks, let us know in the comments down below what you'll be playing over the Christmas period. Maybe give me and Richie some ideas if we want to dabble in anything, if there's any hidden gems that we've missed throughout the course of the year. If not, though, I'll no doubt see you in Helldivers at some point. I did also notice my kind of most played game for the year in the wrap-up was EA Sports FC 24 again.
Really?
And it's that thing. Yeah, I played like 125 hours on that, surprisingly.
I suppose if you play like a couple of matches a day, it just adds up.
I think over the course of a year, I have about like kind of 3 big stints. I thought it's like the start of the season, the transfer window, mate. There's like certain windows in real life that get me where I'm just really into football. And then naturally, you've got to spare half an hour, and then I boot up career mode or something happens. It's like inevitably when the next Welcome to Wrexham series drops on Disney Plus, I'll be straight back into career mode with Wrexham, like I've been doing. So it's a curious one, but yeah, it was. And I haven't bought this year's version, so 25. I'm quite content with 24 because I'm like 4 years deep into a career mode. So I don't need to start again with a new game. So Interesting stuff. But yeah, we do have some news, obviously, folks, to get into, but we can't do that until Richie introduces us to the
graciously gathered Gamer Guild Gazette, aka
the news.
The news.
I went ahead of you there. You caught me out.
You did.
Caught me out. It's because I have the animation to come up, so I'm like ready to click it, and I'm like, I'll time it with when he says it, and then silence. Pregnant pause.
I'm doing that slightly awkwardly long pregnant pause.
So everyone listening in the cars driving's like, what the hell? Why did my podcast just cut off? He got you, folks. He got you. As I said, some big news stories for the week, but they are all brought to you, as always, by our wonderful guild heroes, the fantastic members who support the channel from as little as 99p. You can help get our content better and more frequently. We do have some big plans for the new year. I know I put out a post recently asking about any improvements we can make, I guess, to our content, Richie, where there's not too much new we can bring you because of our time constraints, but obviously we want to always like kind of polish off things, tighten the screw a little bit. I think we have quite a decent overall package, especially with like consistency and stuff in terms of like the way it's looked at and addressed. And I think there are things we want to do in the new year, like we want to get back to some more gameplays. I know some people suggested some more Resident Evil playthroughs and stuff. I think playthroughs with both you and me is definitely on the agenda.
Yeah, like the back half this year, this year largely, especially for me, it's just been a bit all over the place. So getting that kind of cadence where we can guarantee every Thursday we're both sat down together has been a bit tricky.
Yeah, absolutely.
But now I'm settled in here. I'm set up here. I've got a house to sell early next year, but once that's gone, it should be quite a bit easier. My time should be back more to like 2023's cadence than 2024's.
So we've got some plans, and I know some people asked in the comments about the Clickercast. That's fully intended to come back as well, with a big surprise. Actually, I know we've been teasing it for a long time, but until they announce when the HBO show is going to come back, then we'll keep it secret, keep it safe,
keep
our
powder dry.
Exactly. So Richie, first story of the week: Sony is not buying Elden Ring parent company FromSoftware, but they have upped their stakes in it. So we knew they were talking to Kadakowa, which is the parent company of FromSoftware, one of the big Japanese organizations over there. They announced earlier in the week that they have created a strategic capital and business alliance, which sounds more important than it probably is, which will see Sony actually become Kadakowa's largest shareholder. The deal, scheduled to go through on the 7th of January, will see Sony purchase 12 million odd worth of fresh shares in the company for a fee of 50 billion yen, which is around $320 million. Sony does already own a 2% stake, which means this will actually boost their shares up to approximately 10% of holdings. So basically the correspondence reads is it's basically a relationship that they're going to maximize both companies' IP across the globe and facilitate wider and deeper collaboration, such as potential joint investments in the content field, joint discovery of new creators, and joint promotion of further media mixes of both companies' IP. They also go on to add that in the future, the two companies will discuss plans to on specific initiatives for collaboration, such as initiatives to adapt Kadakowa's IP, because remember they do have a lot of anime in their wheelhouse, into live action films and TV dramas, produce anime works, expand global distribution of the anime works via Sony Group, so probably through like Sony Music, Sony Movies, further expanding publishing of Kadakowa's games, so FromSoft content, and develop human resources to promote and expand virtual production. They do go on a little bit more talking about like capital ventures and what that means, but I think for us, the big thing, I guess, is that FromSoftware staying third person, which I think was everyone's biggest worry, that Sony would have snapped them up and go, guess what? They're all PlayStation exclusive.
With FromSoft not being truly like an indie game company, because they are owned by Kadakowa, an outright purchase FromSoft would have been very difficult, because Kadakowa would look at it and go, no, they're too profitable. Yeah. They're kind of the big guys in gaming at the moment. They are kind of the gaming company at the moment.
Yeah, it's like they are the golden goose for Kadakowa as well. So why would you sell your golden goose? Which I think is where the rumours start to swell that Sony were looking to just buy them all outright. But there's a lot of stuff with Kadakowa that I don't think Sony wanted. Like Kadakowa actually has like a pawn branch as well.
Nice.
So I think Sony were like, well, we don't want that. And Kadakowa like, look, you buy everything or nothing. And so like, we cannot be associated with this anime porn stuff.
To be fair, they could have bought it then. jettisoned it.
They could, but then you've got that thing of like, even just, you could imagine the articles, couldn't you, from the games, and you know what some games journalists are like, of like, Sony buys X-rated
Spider-Man
content.
porn.
Yeah. I mean, that exists, but
the thing is, it's roughly an 8% stake they've just bought for $320 million. Yeah. Buying the whole company, that's going to be like $3 billion.
At that rate, yeah.
Yeah, that's the kind of cost you're talking to buy them fully out. And to be honest, they'd probably be even more inflated if they try to buy the entire thing.
Yeah.
So you're probably looking in the 10 billion thing. So Sony might not have the capital to do that anyway.
Yeah, and I think they almost got their fingers burnt a little bit by the Bungie acquisition, didn't they? They paid about $3 billion for Bungie, and that's done nothing but give them problems since that. So they're probably a bit more reserved when it comes to who and what they purchase now.
It's safer.
Yeah.
They have the benefits of them getting closer to like the FromSoftware, not getting more access to Kadakowa's IP, and vice versa. Kadakowa getting access to Sony's distribution networks, their movie studios, the music studios, the anime studios, PlayStation. It feels like this is a good partnership that they're strengthening.
Yeah, well, I mean, we just mentioned about Indiana Jones going anime, but you could see the reverse happening where some PlayStation IP could make it across to just like a short anime series. I could see Horizon or something being made into
honestly, I could see a Bloodborne. Yeah, like quite an adult-themed anime,
like a Castlevania style.
But using Bloodborne as your IP.
I mean, they're going to do everything but make another game for Bloodborne, it seems. So
yeah,
absolutely right.
You never know. This might actually help them make another game.
Yeah, it's that, like, how much, if you own like the majority share in the parent company, how much influence do you have over like what FromSoftware work on next project wise?
I mean, the articles do state that Sony is now the biggest shareholder, but they still only own 10%, so they're well away from a majority. But
the biggest must give you enough like influence, right?
But they've got quite a lot of influence, but not enough. They're not walking in and then Sony making all the decisions here.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of finance behind it. I think looking at like the Sony owning Crunchyroll and Funimation also means that that's more content you would imagine for their streaming services. Yeah. They're basically the kings of anime right now.
Sony's distribution networks, they have the two major distribution networks for anime in the Western world, in Funimation and Crunchyroll.
Yeah.
Like the only third one is probably Netflix after that.
Yeah.
But how many Netflix anime is actually made by like Funimation or Crunchyroll?
That's true, yeah.
So
but then ultimately looking at the games, I mean, FromSoftware, where do you even start with them? Like, they've got obviously the smash hit Elden Ring most recently, but then when you go back through basically the last 5 IP, just print money. People are clamoring for Bloodborne. It's been 10 years nearly now.
Yeah, Bloodborne I can see working as quite a gritty, grounded, like a very adult, gory anime. Then you've got Armored Core.
Yeah.
There's your mech anime straight away.
Yeah.
Then you've got things like Dark Souls, Demon Souls. And that's before you even touch on Elden Ring, which is your big fantasy adventure.
Sekiro,
yeah.
They did one game of that, and it won Game of the Year. And now it's just sat maybe 5th in line for the next entry.
I think Sekiro for me is probably a movie.
I mean, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But, so Kadakowa Games via FromSoftware are obviously going to be a huge player in this market. And it's that thing where it's like you forget, but Sony have like shares in lots of varied things now. Like they own a chunk of Epic as well, right? So every time you spend money with Fortnite, they're getting a piece of that pie as well. So they're a lot more tactical than I think we give them credit for sometimes.
A lot of companies in the West tend to be focused on, we do this, we make this thing.
Yeah.
But then a lot of companies in Japan, from what I understand, tend to be quite multifaceted. Like something like Yamaha, they're mainly known for things like motorbikes and instruments. These are not things, which is why the Yamaha logo is like tuning forks looking to look like the spokes of a wheel.
Ah, makes sense. Yeah,
but so it's like they're quite multifaceted. Like, so I mean, look at Sony, perfect example: music, anime, movies, gaming, televisions, cameras.
I mean, Sony in general, electronics company. You've got like the whole story behind PlayStation. Like they only really got into it because they were going to work with Nintendo, right? And Nintendo stabbed them in the back and went with was it Nintendo? Fujitsu.
something like
they went with one of their rivals,
Panasonic,
yeah. And then out of that, you got PlayStation, and look at that, 30 years on.
No, it was Philips. Because that's how the CDI came about. I think that was part of the deal.
Okay, right.
To get some of the IP over the Philips CDI. But with the Sony Nintendo thing, it's Sony wanted to have a royalty on every single disc CD sold.
Mm-hmm.
And Nintendo didn't want to pay them a royalty on every single game that they made. And that's the wedge that drew them apart.
That makes sense.
To the PlayStation.
Actually, as a side note to that, I'll show you in a second.
He's going to get something. Oh, what's he getting? Does he have a Nintendo PlayStation on his shelf? Probably not, because that thing will be worth millions, probably. Oh, what's he got?
I forgot to mention, actually, the week. You just totally reminded me when you were talking about that. You know, the history of PlayStation, the history of Vita and stuff, the books I've been getting from Sandeep Raj, who does the quarterly PlayStation retro magazines. He put out this one, which is a visual history of PlayStation.
Oh, that's amazing, awesome. That's like, for audio listeners, it's like a black hardbound cover with the PlayStation symbols, the X square, circle, triangle on the front. 2
handhelds, 5 consoles, can't read that backwards, hundreds of games in 30 years. So it's basically like the ultimate celebration. But if you've not seen it, again, Sandeep Raj over on it's out Too Old for Gaming on Twitter and stuff on socials. But basically, it takes you through the history of every kind of console. But yeah, it starts off with like the origins of PlayStation. There you go, that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, the Nintendo PlayStation.
Yeah, and then it basically just takes you through everything. But the artwork and the way it's laid out is just absolutely beautiful. It's a great read to go through it as well. All the years, some of the games, the demo discs and stuff like that, like you were talking about. The original mascot, Polygon Man. Watch out for that scary bastard in the middle of a dark alley.
Yeah. How many people don't even realise that was the original mascot?
Oh,
and like when you unlock him on Astrobot, people must be like, "What's that?"
Yeah, well, he was the villain at the end of PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale. He was the giant floaty head that you fought. But go and check out, if you're a PlayStation fan, go and check out like Sandeep's work, because it's fantastic stuff. He's got a new one out, which is in partnership with Obsolete Sony, which is another great Twitter account if you don't follow that. When the recent Intergalactic trailer came out, you know, the CD rack that the disc pulls out of, that's a real thing that was on sale in the 80s. And it's now going to be in a new Naughty Dog game, which is probably going to see a resurgence in weird old tech coming back. And they're publishing a book together, Obsolete Sony and Sandeep, about the history of obsolete tech. But back to like the original point we were talking about with Sony, is like the first thing they ever made was a rice cooker. And then they've evolved somehow over time to PlayStation 5 Pro and a conglomerate machine that covers entertainment over everything. Mad.
If I ate rice every day, I'd buy a rice cooker, because they're meant to be great, but I don't.
Yeah, if you do. I wish I ate things like rice for breakfast and stuff. I was watching a video online about saying... No, but I know, but it's like, I think I've been so conditioned to think like cereal's good for you, or you have toast. It's like, but in Japan and stuff, they have like rice, like egg rice and stuff on a morning.
Yeah.
And it just seems like such a nice, fresher way to start your day, but I can't be bothered to get up and cook rice. I just like whack cereal in a bowl and you go.
Especially in the West, especially in like the UK, is like one of our major crops has always been like wheat. So you're making bread out of it. So egg on toast is like quite common. Like fried rice. Rice is one of the major crops over Eastern Asia.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
It's just so much healthier. But I think it's just like sugar, isn't it? Like Pop-Tarts and things like that. It's just, it's a totally different world, and we're both better and worse for it. But side tangent aside, no purchase for Kadakowa, so looks like everything will stay the same as it is for the time being, but then we'll get round to it. What also seems to stay the same for the time being, Richie, is story number 2, and that is dedicating some time to talking about the supposed backlash, quote-unquote, from the last week in gaming. After the Game Awards, we obviously got some huge reveals. We got Naughty Dog's new game, as we just mentioned, Intergalactic, The Heretic Prophet, which I still don't like the subtitle name on that. It just doesn't roll off. There's something between heretic and prophet. I mean, because they're both ending quite harsh sounds. They don't roll into each other that well. For me, phonetically. Yeah.
I like the Heretic Prophet as a standalone title. But I think Intergalactic is going to be like the series of games that they're making.
Yeah.
And Heretic Prophet is the first one. But when it's the first game, it just doesn't quite work. I think you're always going to get that when it's like the first game has a title and a subtitle.
Yeah. I mean, well, the first Uncharted was Drake's Fortune, right? But everyone just calls it Uncharted. So it's like, will we maybe just refer to this as Intergalactic, which I think is a cool standalone name?
Yeah. To be fair, everyone just really refers to all the Uncharted games have a subtitle, and other than Lost Legacy, I bet you just call them Uncharted 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
But then you call it Lost Legacy because it's not a numbered title.
Yeah, there's Among Thieves, Drake's Deception,
Drake's Fortune, and Thief's End.
And Golden Abyss. Let's not forget Golden Abyss. But
played that.
You have to keep telling you can borrow my Vita if you want to.
I need to.
You borrow movies, you borrow games. Now you've borrowed consoles. Do you want a kidney as well while I'm here?
Yeah, go on then.
No,
I could have 3 kidneys.
Kidney man.
Actually, after this week, I could do with a bit of your liver.
Actually, yeah. I mean, I'll keep that one. I need it for Christmas. But in terms of the backlash, supposedly, between, getting Naughty Dog's reveal of Intergalactic and the new protagonist, which is a female, and she's not got any hair, and she's maybe a little bit less feminist as you'd traditionally look for. And then The Witcher 4, which has opted to put Ciri as the protagonist, and not Geralt, which is our big butched alpha male hunter. Naturally, the internet got hold of this, and I know it's the vocal minority, but I think we just need to talk about it because the industry's picked up on it.
It's some bad take. It's people looking for controversy where there is none, to be honest.
I agree, yeah.
It's people who are that deep down the rabbit hole of, like, whatever it is. They can't see the forest for the trees. It's like, especially with The Witcher, it's like, they've said with Witcher 3 that basically this is Geralt retiring. It's a big theme of The Witcher 3 is like Geralt's kind of last adventure. And so if anyone was surprised by Ciri being the playable protagonist in Witcher 4, I don't know why. I get there's multiple endings to The Witcher 3, and they do have to canonize one of them.
Yeah.
Not every ending of The Witcher 3 would lead to Ciri being a natural next protagonist. Mm-hmm. But it clearly, they've had to make a decision of when, okay, the canon ending of Witcher 3 is going to be with Ciri basically taking up the mantle of The Witcher.
Yeah.
So I was just not even surprised in the slightest.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know why you would be.
Well, the source material as well, like if you've read the books, is like she is the protagonist. That's the thing, is like the Witcher, it's not about Geralt necessarily.
No.
It obviously jumps between a lot of characters, but
it's like The Last of Us, where it's kind of the story pivots around Ellie.
Yeah.
Where even in The Last of Us 1, the story's pivoting around Ellie. You're just playing as Joel.
Yeah.
You're along for the ride.
You're literally the delivery guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're on the sticks. And spoilers for The Last of Us 10-year-old odd game is that, like you play like that. I remember that pivot towards playing as Ellie in the snow area when you first get it and you're like, oh shit. Like, I don't think many games have done it like so subtly before.
There was a lot of controversy with Last of Us 2 when Ellie's the main character, not Joel. Playing as Ellie. It's like, well, yeah, she was the main character in the last game. You just didn't play as her much.
Yeah, it's such a whole who about nothing. But it's just
especially
like,
with The Witcher, and I don't get it.
But it's just like to go to Naughty Dog's the biggest thing I've seen. Like the trailers have been like downvoted, like double to upvotes. It's like I know voting online is just like it's a quick glimpse. You see it and go, it's not for me, it's not for me. But it's just that curious thing. It's like, what's actually wrong with you? Like Naughty Dog have the most proven track record of arguably any game studio in the history of video games, and yet because the trailer shows someone who maybe isn't traditionally as attractive, the internet's just like, oh, this woke shit. They just like to throw around that word. And it's like, what does that even mean anymore? It's got cool sci-fi vibes. It looks stunningly beautiful. They've got a history of great,
so far down the rabbit hole. To be honest, that take, it's just sexist. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's not anti-woke, like as you're fighting some like noble battle. You're just being a sexist prick. Like, I'm not attracted to this woman, therefore woke.
Therefore the game's terrible. Yeah, it's lots of concerning issues.
She's a bounty hunter in space.
Yeah, we mentioned it in the live stream, I think, this week. It's that the chances are, like, the opening of the trailer, she's literally shaving her head, so there's nothing to say for the 90% of the rest of the game. Yeah. She has hair.
She doesn't want space lice.
Space lice. They're scary space lice.
Yeah, it's a practical decision. Yeah, she isn't wearing makeup because guess what? Most women don't wear makeup when they're lounging around the house.
No, they don't. But I'm waiting for that moment where, like, the rest of the game, actually, you maybe get to choose the style. Like, she's in space, so chances are she'll have blue hair, pink hair, whatever crazy antics you get up to in space. And I just think it's one of the things. Like, why would you make such a split decision? Like on the visual
trailer,
it's like,
and I saw it's just sexist.
And I saw
you have no context for this character, who she is, what she's doing. You've made a decision that the company that Naughty Dog have went woke because they've used a female protagonist.
Yeah, and the biggest thing it's the continued backlash from The Last of Us 2. That's why. It's some people didn't like certain story beats in The Last of Us Part 2, and they've took it so to heart, it's trickled over into this.
And it's fine not liking certain story beats or not enjoying certain characters, even if they are. That's fine. But when you take into the internet and like demonizing companies and people for making them decisions, that just makes you look like an absolute prick.
Yeah. And people make the weirdest comparisons. Like, I've seen people comparing like Crash Bandicoot to this. Like, how do we get from this to this? It's like, what, superior graphics in every way, shape possible, better storytelling than ever, more varied gameplay, and you're comparing it to a marsupial wearing jorts running around a linear level. Like, you need to really check yourself.
Naughty Dog are a company who want to keep evolving. It's why they've moved away from, I think, even with like hits like Uncharted, because they want to keep moving on. They want to keep telling new stories. Something like Crash is very limited in what you can do story wise. So they made the decision to move away from Crash. But at the time when Naughty Dog was founded and like PlayStation was kicking off, you needed a platform mascot.
Yeah.
So they created one which became the de facto PlayStation mascot.
Yeah.
So they've always been at the top of the quality, top of the game for PlayStation, right from Crash.
Yeah, it's
because I don't know. I really don't get the mentality. I think it is people who are just work themselves into such a rage of it. Nothing. It's nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
It's like
pixels on the screen.
Yeah, it is like I really don't understand it. I'm trying to.
It's because you're a logical, normal person. That's why you're not absolutely human. But it's weird because they accept people like Lara Croft. I bet if you ask the same people, like, oh yeah, Lara's fine. It's like, is that just because she's got nicer boobies? Or she's more like she's got nice feminine hair. Like, what is the distinction between why you can go, yes, I'm okay with this one, but not that one? Like, we've had plenty of
was overly sexualized when she first came out, and well, Naughty Dog are choosing not to overly sexualize their characters because it doesn't really make sense for a gritty space adventure.
Yeah, she's not lathered in makeup and wearing high heels and running around.
But guess what? Stellar Blade exists, so you
go
have
play that.
choices. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's fine with Stellar Blade. Yeah, it's curious. It's basically you're all too horny. Go bonk yourself with the horny stick. And stop getting worked up by video games.
Before you take to Twitter, spend half an hour on Pornhub.
Yeah, or go to
relieve your stress.
Go to
then relook at it.
Kadakowa's anime porn page. Go have a look at that. But yeah, to take it like full circle back around to The Witcher as well. I saw people complain about The Witcher because naturally the graphics have got better as every game iterations came out, and some people weirdly think that the older iteration of Ciri isn't as good as the first one, and it's like now you're getting caught up with the whole because they look different. It's like because the graphics are better, so it's like in your mind's eye you've visualized her over the last 10 years playing The Witcher 3 in a certain way, and because the newer version is like added 10 more years to her and she hasn't aged up the way you expected a fictional character to, you've kind of got that bee in your bonnet.
You mean the character's probably in her mid-30s now and doesn't look like she was 21 still?
Yeah, and they're like, oh, no, her face looks different. It's like, yeah, your face changes as you get older, you idiot.
Yeah.
Like, if you go back 5 years and watch our first podcasts, we look very different now than we did then. We might not because you listen to us week to week out.
I have more hair and less grey.
Less grey?
I don't... When we first started.
Oh, when you started, but now I was like... Stretch it. The internet's going to kick off Richie. Richie's got too much grey.
It's all the stress of that from the talk about these terrible takes the internet occasionally has.
Yeah, it's a choice, isn't it? But
if it wasn't so if it wasn't so pervasive on social media and people ramming down the throat of other people, it would be comical. But the thing is, though, the more people say it out loud, the more it becomes normalized, and it's like that's why I feel like you need to occasionally go, no, shut the fuck up, sit back down, go to the pub with your friends and moan about it there. The world doesn't care about your opinion on this.
Yeah, check yourself.
Naughty Dog have made their decisions, whether you think it's woke or not. And if you think Naughty Dog's a woke company and you hate the choices they make, don't play their games. It's entertainment. You don't have to play them.
Yeah, but people get caught up on these type of things. But I tell you what, ultimately though, and it's who will have the last laugh, and it'll be Naughty Dog and CD Projekt when these games come out, and they're in every Game of the Year conversation, they're in every best performance conversation, they're in every best action RPG, whatever role category Jeff Keighley can come up with. The year these two games release will be the year they'll be part of the conversation, and probably the winners in most categories. They might even come out the same year, which then we'd have a problem.
That'd be a good year, though.
I mean, we're getting to that point where you've got, like, Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to be a reality. And I'm curious to see, like, the Rockstar... Like, could you imagine if Rockstar somehow, Grand Theft Auto 6 falls into that woke, quote-unquote, category, where people don't like what the protagonist... Because Rockstar are typically a tongue-in-cheek comedy, like a satirical take on, like, the current world we live in. Like, will they have a fake Donald Trump? And will there be stuff going around about, like, cancel culture and stuff like that? And a Rockstar big enough to, like, survive that wave where they just don't give a shit?
I think Grand Theft Auto is so huge that even if it was mediocre, it'd be in the Game of the Year conversation just by sheer amount of people who are going to play it.
It can't even be made. They've had so much time. This is the most expensive game ever made, hands down. Like, it's going to sell. I was trying to explain this to my wife the other day, saying I don't think, like, because obviously she teaches at school with younger kids who will inevitably play this many years before the age rating should allow.
Shouldn't, but they will.
Like other things with Fortnite and stuff. Yeah, we absolutely did, so they will. And it's like, you don't realise that if it comes out this summer, how much of the cultural zeitgeist is going to be Grand Theft Auto. It's going to be the biggest entertainment medium that's probably ever came out in the history of ever, in terms of just how many sales numbers are going to be broken, like, within the first 24 hours, 48 hours. Every man and their dog is literally going to be playing this game. Even them woke assholes who don't like certain protagonists are going to be playing this.
Well, Grand Theft Auto 5 is still so huge and does so well on social media. Occasionally just be like scrolling through YouTube Shorts and go, here's Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about space or some shit. And underneath there's some dickhead playing Grand Theft Auto because he's put it in there because he knows it's going to... I hate that stuff. I hate when people do that. Like, they put one half of the video is completely unrelated to the other, but it seems to do well for the algorithms. That Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to take that and just ramp it up.
It's like all the outlets that are going to jump on GTA that are never usually associated with game. You know, when you see the rare BBC News article about game, and you're like, why the hell are they dipping their toes into this world? They have no clue. And yet they'll be like, Grand Theft Auto
Chronicle. There's a review on this.
Yeah, the Metro doing random. Actually, the Metro do quite a bit of game things, to be fair. But it's just, this summer, if it hits it, like, actually, have you seen the stories this week of, like, all game developers and publishers are basically waiting with bated breath on release dates because no one wants to go and fall into the same window as GTA because you are going to have to move.
Oh, you just remind me of all, like, you know, when the non-usual, the kind of traditional press cover the foot in the gaming industry when they're covering. I think I was listening to Radio 1 at work last week, and they were talking about Indiana Jones, and they're talking about Troy Baker, and, you know, I'm sat there like,
that's 90%
weird. Of the people listening to this have no idea who Troy Baker is, including the people talking about it.
It's Troy Baker, like, a butch bald woman protagonist of a
because they were talking about Indiana Jones, and they were talking about how Troy Baker's taking on over for Harrison Ford, and I was sat there going, yeah, you guys don't know what you're talking about right now.
Oh, it's a shame they didn't have some voice clips to, like, test their audience, like which one's Harrison, which one's Troy.
Yeah, they should have just got me, and I would have covered that story for them.
Yeah, like, much better detail.
So this is who roughly Troy Baker is. He is huge actor, probably one of the most successful actors of all time, actually. Mm-hmm. But his medium isn't being TV and movies; it's been video games.
Yeah,
and that's why he's taking over from Harrison Ford, and he bloody nails it.
Absolutely. And he's a male protagonist.
Yeah.
You should play a female one time. Really test his voice skills if he can.
Should go full Monty Python.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, there's a whole lot about nothing, I think, with this, and I know we don't usually get into it, but I think because it's almost in a way you feel like you want to defend it a little bit and go, let these developers just create what they want to create. They're going to tell great stories.
Judge the story once you've played it.
Yeah, it's like to round this up, I saw some really funny comments of people going like, "Oh, I can't see myself as the protagonist. I like to play games to see myself." I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. When you played Astrobot, did you relate to the small little robot? When you were playing Crash Bandicoot, did you relate to the small mammal from Australia, wherever it's from?"
When you play Call of Duty, do you relate to running through like the streets of Baghdad shooting people?
Yeah, it's like
is that what you relate to?
It's like it's a video game, dude. Like come on.
And if you have someone who you can't see, you have to put yourself into the story. There's plenty of games that can do that. There's plenty of games where you have things like silent protagonists or the first-person games or the like full RPGs, and you have full customization of your character. These games also exist. It's just then what you're saying is this game isn't for me.
Yeah.
So rather than raging about it, don't want to play it. Play something else.
Yeah.
Go play Skyrim again. Skyrim's good.
Yeah. You clearly don't have much of an imagination if you
can be an elven mage if that's how what you relate to.
Yeah. But realistically, what you should relate to is a pissy, middle-aged, sad person who doesn't understand it. But we'll move on because these people probably won't be playing Balatro either, Richie, because they're also under 18. Next story of the week, Balatro, of course, the Game of the Year, award-winning, many award titles over the year, can't get past seemingly an age rating in Europe. PEGI 18, have given Balatro a score that the developers, actually, if you remember the developer with the cool Star Wars name, Local Thunk, the droid from Star Wars, he's called out the rating on Twitter because basically it's been getting an 18 plus, but he's calling out the fact that, I'll read his tweet directly. Talk with PEGI discussing the 18 rating, and they do not see anything wrong with Balatro being rated 18 plus, nor with EA Sports FC in similar games having a 3 plus rating, blaming EU laws, blaming storefronts, waiting for the future, sitting on their hands. I thought some good might come of this. This sucks. So basically Balatro has been rated as an 18, but things like FIFA, which have random card packs and microtransactions, get a 3 plus. And PEGI have argued that it deserves the 18 because it teaches kids how to play poker hands, knowledge which could be transferred to a real-life game of poker. That's the reasoning.
Yeah, and it's one of them. I understand actually PEGI's take here because they are bound by EU law. Yeah. The problem is the EU law in this situation where I actually think Balatro should be an 18 plus. I think any game, whether digital or physical, where you can exchange money for a chance of getting something is gambling and therefore should be an 18 plus and not marketed to children. Any game, that's including Pokemon trading card game, because there's chance mechanics that you can pay for. So that should be an 18 plus game because it's gambling.
But with Balatro, there's nothing like that. There's no betting, there's no microtransactions, there's no loot boxes, there's no gambling of any kind. It's just the mechanics are similar to poker.
Okay, then if there's no actual real-world money getting spent in-game for a chance of something happening, then it shouldn't be an 18 plus.
And that's what you're saying. So you're saying, how am I getting 18, but FIFA, which has loot boxes and game card packs that kids can play?
Which are literally gambling. Yeah. I don't think there's any grey area in that.
You spend real money.
Legally they're not considered to be gambling, but you're spending money for a chance of something happening. That's gambling.
Yeah. It's like booster card packs in Pokemon trading cards.
As I said, it should be an 18 plus. It's like I've played a lot of Dreamlight Valley. That should be 18 plus because there is chance mechanics in there which are paid for. Yeah, I don't think actually microtransactions should be in kids' games.
Yeah, do you think Balatro's been unfairly treated because it is a card game, and I think traditionally we associate cards with gambling, especially poker.
Because poker is straight up gambling, as it's seen, so it feels almost a slightly lazy take. They haven't fully understand, as I didn't. They haven't fully understood what the game is. They went, it's poker, it's 18 plus. Yeah, but it might just be the way the EU laws are worded that the PEGI hands are tied. Yeah, but I do think this is not just the EU, but in the US and regulators in the US and in the UK and other places need to revisit
for the net.
like things like loot boxes and stuff, because they are very, very pervasive.
Yeah, especially in today's world.
I think it is problematic for children because they don't have the same critical faculties yet. They're still developing that critical. Some adults still are, like that critical, the ability to look at the thing, go, I'm going to choose not to pay for this. Yeah. Like the premium pass for Pokemon actually is chance. That is gambling, because all you get really is one extra pack a day.
Yeah.
So I'm paying money to get an extra pack.
A random gambling. Pack as well.
A random, yeah, it's because it's random.
Yeah. So you're encouraged to keep trying to get the one you want, because there's no guarantee. You can't go in and just buy the card you want or the item you want. It's like, no, you roll the dice on this, which is gambling.
They always use the same psychological tricks like casinos and stuff been using for decades, where all the flashing lights and you have to open the pack to see what's in, and it comes up and
big reveal.
What's next? And I love that game, but it is, for me, it's gambling, and it should be 18 plus.
Yeah.
And this is where I think FIFA and stuff should be.
Yeah, it's absolutely FUT should be like a separate game altogether. That's 18, and FC 20 whatever stays as a game.
What I don't like is when it feels like sometimes, like we're talking about the EU because that's specific to PEGI and Balatro, where it's where things like I don't like when things like the EU lawmakers run scared of corporations like EA, because they're the ones who should be telling EA what they can and can't do, not the other way around. Absolutely. You shouldn't be regulating in a way that allows corporations to do what they want. You should be regulating in a way that forces corporations to do what you need them to do.
Yeah, I think with Balatro, that's where it comes down as weird. I think because it's poker and because it's been so successful, it's kind of rose to the top of the pile where it's been noticed. But if you look at other ones, so in the US, it's got an ESRB rating of 10 plus, but PEGI gives it an 18, so it's different. But then if you look at the rating board as well, it's quite inconsistent when it comes to gambling games and age, because there's games that do have an 18 rating and others that don't. So for example, there's a game called Prominence Poker, Texas Hold'em Poker, Pokergeist, Pure Hold'em World Poker Championship, and the Four Kings Casino and Slot all have a 12 rating. So that if PEGI is literally saying it shows how it teaches people how to use and play poker, and the terminology around poker is the reason why. Why is there games that literally have poker in the title and that seemingly are just games of poker online get a 12? So it's like they're not clear with their reasonings behind it, and it's like
I think that is the most annoying thing when it comes to any sort of regulation. It's not necessarily sometimes what the regulation is; it's when it's unevenly applied.
Yeah.
Because if the regulation was evenly applied to everyone, but you didn't like it, it sucks. But it is what it is. It's like football. Like when sometimes like the rules seem to be different, and like you hear like pundits talking about like home team advantage when it comes to referees and stuff. It's like none of that shit should matter. The referee should just play the game to the laws, and that's it. Regardless what teams are playing, what the stakes are. But when it's like it feels like the rules are applied inconsistently from one place to the next, that's when I think you get problems.
Yeah, it's mad. To be fair, PEGI's the same company that gave Astrobot a 7 rating. So by that logic, that means you if the way they're going off, like the skills from Balatro could be transferred to playing poker, there's a casino level. There's a casino level in Astrobot. Does that mean that by PEGI's logic, does that mean children can transfer that skill to slot machines in real life? Therefore, Astrobot should be an 18.
Yeah, it's teaching them. It has the slot machine. It has like
you pull the ching ching. Yeah. So by that,
but you can't spend any real world money to do anything in there.
What but you can't in Balatro though, remember?
So all of them are crap. Yeah, but it's just all of the broken cans.
But that's the point. Balatro has no money. It's just a game. You play purely in the game. So like Astrobot with the slot machines, you don't physically win anything. You're not physically putting any real money in. Yet there's gambling games out there. It's just all a bit of a hoo-ha that, PEGI need to just check themselves. And a bit like Jeff Keighley, they need to recategorize their age ratings and their award listings to get it right. But moving on, Richie, to some more controversy around loot boxes and microtransactions. I mentioned at the top of the show, Helldivers, Omens of Tyranny came out, amazing new content, which I will point out, all free. That whole
also
new...
amazing name, Omens of Tyranny.
It is, yeah. Like, it just rings true, doesn't it? All free, so that's a whole new faction, whole new worlds, new gameplay mechanics, and new characters and vehicles and stuff, all dropped for free, like just there during the Game Awards. After that, they've announced, which I've been shouting out from day one, a Killzone crossover. So Killzone, of course, famed PlayStation first-person shooter franchise, 4 games from Guerrilla, who now make Horizon, where basically shit happens. It's basically space Nazis, the Hellgas, the space Nazis. You don't really need to know much about them other than they look cool as shit in terms of bad guys. And they've done a crossover with Helldivers, where as of this week, Helldivers skins dropped into Helldivers. Not the approach I want them to take, because quite frankly, I think the Hellgas should be a race in the game. If Helldivers, they want to live on, what this does for me, though, this shows they are willing to collaborate, especially with PlayStation IP. And having the skins in the game means they exist for me, which means at some point in the future, no matter how many years down the line, we discover the planet Helgan, which is from the franchise, and the Hellgas become like a race you fight against. So we've got zombies, we've got robots, we've got bugs. They'll need to go somewhere, because remember the Game Awards, the developer said they want to support this game for years to come.
Yeah,
they need something, and what better to go to an old PlayStation IP that millions of people love and keep shouting for it to come back and make it into a real thing to really elevate the game and be like, oh shit, Helldivers is Killzone canon in the PlayStation connected universe. And then eventually we get Resistance, and then do we get Horizon robots? And then do you go to a planet that looks like The Last of Us? Like, there's so much stuff they could do with Helldivers that could be in that PlayStation world. Or just go all out third party. Like, give me Halo skins. Like, they want Helldivers to be Fortnite, let's face it. Like, that's where the world they want to be in, where it's just printing money for skins and partnerships. And I hate to think we're in a world where they're going to go like Nicki Minaj level, but if it makes them money, it's a company.
Yeah, I feel like Helldivers wouldn't go that route.
Yeah,
yet maybe eventually, if it got to the size
Call of Duty got there,
or
yeah.
Fortnite, where once you dip your toe in there. But I feel like at the moment they want to maintain the integrity of the IP.
Absolutely. But the skin sets and everything in particular, they do look great. Like, if you've not seen them yet, there's basically the main weapons you want the skin that looks like one of the Hellgas, and you want the gun that looks like one of the weapons from Killzone, essentially. Now, the controversy comes, Richie, because they announced it as just like randomly off the cuff. It was like, oh crap, there's a Killzone collaboration. That's amazing. The problem they had with it is the finances behind it. So, reading from Eurogamer, the CEO of Arrowhead has responded to criticism of the game's high cost of the crossover. So, usually extra content comes in the form of a war bond, which basically you buy like a pass for 1,000 super credits, which is the real world equivalent of about £8. You pay £8 for it, which usually gets you weapon varieties, armors, and some cosmetic skins. So that's what you kind of get as part of your war bond. The Killzone items are instead purchasably separate, with all 6 items totaling about 2,000 super credits. So essentially you need to buy 2 packs, or 16 quid's worth, to double the price for the same thing. But because it's branded as Killzone as a crossover, it's costing you twice as much. Now, if you bought them individually, the assault rifle and stuff and some of the other pieces it can add up to more if you buy them. Typically in like piecemeal, it's going to cost you more than just buying the bundle. And essentially they've got criticism for it, saying if I want to buy everything that comes out, it's going to cost me up to 4 times the amount, which obviously people aren't happy with. It seems like they've now got this IP crossover and now they're starting to get greedy with it. So the developers of the game came out and said, like, it basically responded to criticisms. I'll read from one of the tweets. Someone replied to one of them saying, I grabbed the whole thing because I love Killzone, but the price definitely felt steep, especially since it's only half of it, because the second pack hasn't came out till this week. It would have been nice if it had remained a war bond like we've had in the past. The developer, who's been very vocal over the whole existence of Helldivers, the head of the studio, said, sorry you felt the price was steep. We're looking at all feedback. The reason we changed it from a war bond was actually because there were concerns that having a higher price war bond would carry negative feedback. So they've done it piecemeal to try and appease the people, but I think the shock factor of it being upwards of double has caught everyone off guard. Before we get into it, to their credit, they have actually responded now and said the second part of the pack, which is going to come out in a second offering this week, they're giving it away to people for free. Okay. So, Richie, you don't play Helldivers, but this is in your like microtransaction loot box world we've just been covering with Balatro. Where do you sit with all this? Do you think crossovers deserve like a special price point? And then it's hard for me because I'm conscious we just got so much stuff for free as well in terms of the factions. That it's like I feel like it balances out. And if you're not a Killzone fan, don't buy it. There's always that thing of just don't buy it if you don't want it.
That's kind of where I'm sitting, to be honest. Where with it's cosmetic. It doesn't really change how the game plays. It's not extra content really, and the main content they're committing to continually give for free. So this is there purely if you wish to have it. So while I think it does suck that it's effectively twice the price that people expect. I don't actually see that much of a problem as like you're getting all this content for free. They're going to support for years. So you could pay whatever is about 45 quid or something to buy the game.
The game's still just 40 flat rate.
40 quid for the game, and then you could play regularly for the next 3-4 years probably without spending an extra penny if you want.
And I should point out a little caveat to that is if you can still earn and collect super credits in game. So all these cosmetics you can get from in-game play. It might take you hundreds of hours, but you can do it. Yeah,
so and they've said the one thing criticism they have taken is they stay in rotation for some people said they're not in rotation for long enough. So I suppose those people who are trying to grind the credits, they're not quite in rotation long enough for people to get them.
I think they've also announced that they're going to be staying now, I think was another thing.
Yeah, but what Arrowhead are actually saying is in response to the criticism that I think stuff goes off rotation too quickly is as the store grows, if we had a longer time that things stay in rotation, it would take a lot longer for things to come back through.
Yeah.
So absolutely. It's about balancing act. And to be honest, I think Arrowhead are treating us properly, where it's going, look, we're learning what to do here. Like, so maybe this is a misstep. Maybe it shouldn't be basically 1,975 super credits for a crossover event. Maybe it should be 1,500. So they're getting a bit more, but not too much more, not double. I don't know. There's probably some middle ground that they need to find, but this is the first time, and they're listening to the criticism.
Yeah,
so I think that's more important than the actual price.
Yeah, from a business standpoint, again, I think we need to remember like this to keep the servers online and stuff like this. They need to make money. Yeah, everything cannot just be free. Like Fortnite swelled to such a size, like they make enough money regardless of like drop off of players. But like a game, even as successful as Helldivers, it still needs to rely on income to keep growing and developing and pay people.
See, and I know I'm not playing it, but if I was playing this game regularly, I'd rather be making more money off the stuff that isn't necessary for you to keep playing. Yeah. So like the main DLCs, like they've just dropped, you get that for free. So everyone is still playing. We all got the same version, but they're making money out of the stuff that is relatively trivial to the gameplay experience, like a skin. I'd rather that's where they're making the money.
I think so.
Because then if you're not interested in that, you're not paying as much. So this is purely for people who are interested in it.
Yeah.
So it sucks for them, but I think, it's, to be honest, it's about finding the right monetization strategy. And because it is a games as a service, they do need to have one to keep the service going, to keep adding new content. So I think this may be the price of this, going 16 quid instead of 8. Yeah. Probably went too far.
Yeah, it's like, what are you happy with? And I think what
let's drop it back down to 12 quid or something, guys, and maybe that's the happy medium.
Yeah, and what Arrowhead have been great with, like they won the best community game, if I recall, at the Game Awards, because they have been so clear with like all their add-ons and stuff and what they've been doing. And the CEO even came out straight away on Reddit and was like, quick comment on the Hellgas stuff. Firstly, this is our first collaboration, so we'll be figuring stuff out as we go along. We'll let us know what you'd like to see in the future. Secondly, it is optional. And then he basically went on to say, like, this is my way of saying that the game does more stuff than we can do. On this note, he said, like, it's a partnership. He said they were behind the price decision, not Sony, because I saw a couple of people question, like, is the higher-ups went, Helldivers makes money, charge more. And this apparently wasn't. They've held the hand up and went, no, this was our decision as developers. We were wrong. We'll wind it back in. So they are just being so very clear and honest that you can't help but feel like, okay, guys, I'll let you off this time.
But Guerrilla might be wanting a kickback as well.
Yeah, you for all you know, like another studio could be going, well, if you're going to use our IP, we need a percentage, and to balance the books, Arrowhead are like, well, we need to crank it up a little bit to make sure we still break even on this one. So there's a lot of stuff. But I do wonder.
I think the response to it is being correct, and I think sometimes that matters more than the actual initial decision, because they've made a business decision which seemingly hasn't been what people wanted, but they're openly discussing it. They've set out their reasons, which seem honest. Like, guys, this is our first attempt at this. We're going to take your feedback on form. They're not going to bend over backwards and do exactly what every single person wants.
Yeah, and let's face it,
I bet you the next one's going to be cheaper.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
Probably not going to be a war bond. It's probably going to be 1.5 war bonds or something instead of 2.
Yeah,
like, because again, they do need to keep money. They need. Maintaining the game is expensive, and they want to keep adding to it, which is expensive. And when they're giving the core content away for free, you're quibbling over the price of a cosmetic. It's nothing new, to be honest. They're not the first people to charge different rates for different cosmetics in the game,
and they won't be the last either.
No,
but if they could have gone like the Destiny approach and just charged for another full-on game. Like, remember when Destiny was bringing out like the Guardians of Light and stuff? Like, you basically paid £80 all over again for the content. Like, they could have just went, the Omens of Tyranny, it's another £40, but you get this whole new faction, you get new worlds, you get new missions, you get new packs, but they didn't. It was free.
They might have even went, it's 15, or £20 even. So it's like, the new expansion's £20, and I don't think that many people would have an issue with that.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. But let's move away from the Helldivers news, because I could talk about it all day and all night, to some Indiana Jones news. So some quick stories to round out this week's show. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, I waxed lyrical about at the beginning of the show. Of course, coming to PlayStation in the spring, early 2025. And a big, not criticism, but one of the things a lot of people got caught up on initially was the third-person mode, saying that the Machine Games opted to do this in first-person. Having finished the game, can completely see the reasons behind it. It is very immersive. You do kind of just forget about it. And the way they pull the camera out and the amount of cutscenes, in a way, it almost doesn't feel like a fully first-person game, because it's almost like a third of it isn't, because of the cutscenes and the way when you traverse and use your whip, the camera whips, ironically, straight back out, so you can see Indiana. So it's like it's almost like it's, I don't know how you'd even describe it. It's like a first, second, third. It's like a weird hybrid.
It steps between them based on situation.
Yeah, and there is like 3+ hours worth of cutscenes, so you are very much immersed in it, like fully. But this came from Reddit this week, where someone found a bug in the game during one of the open world exploration bits, where the camera actually got stuck in third-person mode. So after the scene, it remained in first-person mode, and the guy playing was able to walk around, traverse in third-person mode. There's a scene where he's in a boat, and it is just like camera pulled back, like God of War, where you and Tracer in the boat exploring around, and it doesn't look janky. The animations look smooth. Indy's rendered just like every other character in the world, all the side characters that are around him. And it kind of it's made the internet wonder, do people want a full third-person mode? Will it work? I imagine Machine Games considered it, but I think, for me, because there are the moments where the camera pulls out, obviously Machine Games have had to render Indiana Jones fully for those moments. So we've seen it happen in the past, like the reverse. Remember Grand Theft Auto 5 has a first-person mode now, and we've seen many other games kind of... Resident Evil, remember Village? The Rose DLC was third-person. That whole game was first, and then the Rose DLC came out. I was like, oh no, it's third now. So there is a history of games that I think when you're designing games for a certain camera angle, the game still kind of functions the same almost, because you are still a character moving around in a 3D environment, interacting with things. The only difference is you're closer to the action. So,
but
I guess
that perspective can be quite important. So
absolutely.
It might be a case of, we know there's going to be some third-person action things, so it might be fairly late in development to decide to go, you know what, we're going to lock this to first person for these moments, because it doesn't quite work it doesn't quite feel right. So it's one thing, like one clip when he's like, it's bugged and he's like out of context. Mm-hmm. But if you were to play the full game like that, it might just not feel the same.
Yeah.
And that might be where, for what they were trying to go for, they might go, you know what, it's okay in third person, but it's great in first.
Yeah.
So let's just force the player into that first person, so they're playing it how we want them to.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a case of, you know what, later on we could do a third person.
Well, that's what I wanted to get at. So, like, I think fundamentally, Machine Games have sat down. They'll have agreed first person. That'll have been one of the first points of call in their development. Like, this was in production for several years, so it definitely wasn't chosen on a whim. But everything Todd Howard said and the way the game plays, you can kind of sense why and know why they did it. I do wonder, though, is this like the ace in the hole of they got all the good swell around launch, it's receiving all the plaudits of like Troy's performance, the game, the story, it's the best thing since Last Crusade. And then it's coming out on PS5, which traditionally the audience loves a third-person action-adventure story game. Comes out in the spring with, let's face it, when they do these re-releases or ports, they always like to add in extra things. Frame rate's been boosted, textures, all the big major updates are going to come with the PS. Arguably, the PS5's version is probably going to be the best place to play Indiana Jones, which is a weird state of affairs. But especially on the Pro, which is far superior hardware than the Series X. Imagine if they launch the PS5 version and it has a third-person mode. I think that'll do wonders for that audience.
It would, but I don't think they should have it for launch. Because if they've sat down when they've built the game, made the decision, as I suggested they might have done, where they've tried they've like designed some of the key levels and key set pieces, played them at first, played them at third, probably with some like play testers and stuff, and decided that what the vibe they're going for works better in first person.
Yeah.
I feel when it comes out to PlayStation, they should go, no, you get it as we want you to experience the game. But what you do is you double dip at the same time and go, Xbox guys, yeah. You know, I know something a bit salty about Indiana Jones coming to PlayStation. Is the game in third person? They get it next year.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so they could always do it in a way of, if there is a third person mode potentially coming, they could give it in the new year for Xbox, and then that basically tease the PlayStation audience of like, look, third person's here, and now it's coming out in April, and you get it all as well. Like, get hype for it. It's weird that some of the comments online, people saying like, oh, it really sucks that the game is jarring switches between first and third. They're not jarring at all. It's just like a seamless transition. Like you whip in first person, and as he pulls on the whip, the camera pulls back out to Indiana, and then as you land, it pans back into first person. It's like if you watch a movie, there's much quicker, sharper cuts that happen in a movie. It's not jarring, so that's just over exaggerated.
It's probably more jarring to do like a whip swing in first person.
It is, yeah, because of the motion and the movement. Because it's just the camera, isn't it? It's like jumping in first person's always a bit like Pac-Man. You're a bit like awkwardly getting around.
I think especially with a game that's been received as well as Indiana Jones has, trust yourself. Like you've clearly nailed it.
Yeah. So
when it comes to PlayStation, I think it'd be wrong to give in the edge, because PlayStation traditionally does have a lot of third-person games that do really well. I think it'd be wrong to give into the edge to give it to PlayStation fans, because I think if you do that, it's probably an inferior version of the game in third person. PlayStation fans are going to get their hands on it and go, this game's nowhere near as good as the Xbox guys were saying it was. It's good, but it's a 7 out of 10, not a 9. I think that's where you might you run the risk. Give them the game as you designed it, as intended, and then you can give them third person later if you want, as like Resident Evil did.
Yeah.
Like, no, we conceived this as a first person game. We know you guys love third person, so you can have it later. You can replay the game later in third person.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to handle it, especially because the quality's already there.
Yeah. Maybe I just want it because now I've finished it. I'm like, I totally love playing through it in third person on PlayStation.
See, you're the niche where I've played through this game in first person on Xbox. I want to play this game in third person because that's my preference when it comes to PlayStation. But you're intentionally double dipping.
I am, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But there's things like that when you pick up an artifact and you examine it, like it wouldn't you'd be watching it from a distance. You wouldn't really see what you're looking at, and the journal you'd have to. Obviously, in first person, you can look down in game at the journal and the map and everything. Whereas in third person, it would have to go to almost like a pause menu because you'd have to zoom right in.
I think as a rule of thumb as well, first person is more immersive because you're looking through the eyes of your character. Yeah, so you're in the environment more than if you're third person. You pull back,
and that's why.
They might have done it as well because one, their history's in first person, and two, to distinguish it a bit more from, because they know going into this, they're going to get comparisons to Tomb Raider and to Uncharted. So to kind of set himself, which is weird, that's Indiana Jones who needs to set himself apart.
Dr. Jones.
Considering Tomb Raider and Uncharted are based off Indiana Jones. Mm-hmm. But to set himself apart, we're going to go, we're going to make this first person predominantly.
Interesting.
And they've seemingly nailed it. So like, this is the thing for me, is like, I don't see why you'd run the risk.
Yeah, it's a curious one. I mean, it's interesting. We'll have to see. But speaking of first person, Richie, I've got some quick stories to round out the show. New leak suggests Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion could be getting a remake. I'll throw this over to you, Richie. You're the Elder Scrolls guy. Obviously first person. This is a screenshot leak coming from several Reddit thread pages. It suggests that someone previously working at Virtuous Games has leaked the remake that is in development. And it's been rumoured for some time. The rumoured leaked games are Project Alter, which is Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion remake, Project Massive, which is described as a double-A Monster Hunter cross Shadow of the Colossus game of some sort, Project Cobra, which is Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, which is true. That's Delta, we know that. Project Ominous, which is described as a narrative climbing game, and then a new expansion for New World, because that's the working on the Amazon New World game. So there's kind of like, there's enough truth in these leaks with like the stuff like Metal Gear Delta and the New World expansion. That's like, okay. But Elder Scrolls released in 2006. It sold nearly 10 million copies. It's obviously well revered. I know you've put many, many hours into this.
I have.
In the world of infinite Skyrim remakes that we've and in the infinite wait that is Elder Scrolls 6, where are you sitting on a Oblivion remake? Is it time?
Yes and no. I would love an Oblivion remake. I think it's amazing. It's an amazing game, but it's showing its age. Like Skyrim's holding up quite well, but feels dated now. Yeah. Oblivion felt dated when Skyrim came out. The reason I'm saying yes and no though is they're remaking the wrong one.
Morrowind.
Was
that 3?
Morrowind's older? What
was that 3? Right.
Yeah. Morrowind is like the first one I think that went truly massive in terms of like the reception of the games. Mm-hmm. I think it was Morrowind was Game of the Year, and I feel like that is a game that is a bit lost for time. You can still play on Game Pass and stuff. It's actually on my list for my Xbox wrap. Briefly, I think I played it an hour or two, but it's old. It feels really, really old. It's one where there's a lot of the charm that game I think had when I loved playing it when I was younger is kind of lost. Is getting lost behind the jank of it and the awkward controls and the very, very, very aged, like early polygonal graphics. But there's an amazing game in there and an amazing story that could be expanded on a bit, tidied up, brought into. We've given it some modern sensibilities, but not going too far. Mm-hmm. I'd still keep a lot of the old-fashioned stats and stuff that the older games have. That I think some RPGs, they seem to be dumbing down the mechanics sometimes. I know things like Dragon Age, every game, it's kind of went more down the line of it's become more focused into being more of an action game rather than an RPG. So, your traditional stats like strength, intelligence stuff, things like that are disappearing and getting replaced by talent trees. You're not getting you're having less equipment that you can pick and choose and change from. And it's more about, okay, here's your weapon. You can upgrade your weapon several times throughout the story. Where I'd try and keep true to the original, but make it play and feel like a modern game. But I still want to be able, if I want to put 50 points into strength and nothing into endurance, so I hit everything and it dies instantly. Before I get hit, I die instantly.
Yeah,
I still want that freedom because that's what these games, what I loved. Like having that freedom to create your character how you want to play it, and you can have a mixed match. You could be walking around in a heavy suit of plate, casting fireballs.
Yeah, I remember Morrowind's one of the first games. I remember going to your parents' house when we were kids and you introducing me to Morrowind.
I remember it being stunning when it first came out.
Yeah, I remember sitting there as you went through one of the opening dungeons or wherever you were, collecting stuff, and I was I think at the time I'd never seen a first person game like that.
Probably never played. It's probably the first open world game I've ever played.
Yeah, I remember you trying to explain it to me, and like we both sat at your desk in your bedroom, like probably sat on your bed actually. I think that's the layout you had in a small box room, and just like clicking through them, just like because I think I never really had. I had like Roller Coaster Tycoon was like my PC side of things, and you were playing this first person open world, and just like I can't even comprehend like the stuff in your storage and everything like that.
Stuff like that just didn't even exist on console at the time. Really,
yeah.
I mean, eventually it did come to Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
But that's when it came to Xbox. I was playing this when I still had, like, before the PS2 came out.
PS2, yeah. Mad, isn't it? But, so I think you could be a good shout there. But seemingly it's in the works. And I think that's the great thing with all these type of games. We will probably see remakes of them at some point in our lifetime, whether it's now or years down the line.
I think, for me, I think I would have personally we're going to remake Elder Scrolls 3. Then we're going to go on to Oblivion while we're working on 6. Yeah. So maybe you do 3, 6, 4. Yeah. Do it in that kind of cadence.
So
where
much.
You start to try and alternate between remake and main title because it's been way too long since Skyrim.
Yeah. It certainly has.
It's good news though. I'm in on an Oblivion remake.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it'll sell gangbusters. I mean, it technically probably goes straight to Game Pass because of the nature of things.
It's got some of the best like story arcs as well in any game I've ever played. Oblivion, actually. This is what I've always liked about the Elder Scrolls games. It's not just about the main story and then you got some side quests. You could go join a faction and that faction will have its own main story.
Yeah.
So that's why the world feels so much more lived in.
Well, time will tell. Time will tell. Same with time will tell on a couple of our last stories. Call of Duty apparently come to Game Pass. We'll cover that as and when it does. We know some of the older games are probably in the pipeline. We got Crash Bandicoot Team Racing, which was actually our live stream this past week. Done surprisingly well. I don't know if you've seen it. It's like randomly past 1,000 views.
Really?
Yeah. Like
I checked it the other day and it was on 40.
Yeah. I trimmed it down like I do to take the ends off it.
Yeah.
And then picked up. So wow. Go watch that.
Ever.
Best kart racer. And then we got Marvel Rivals, passes 20 million players. So we'll probably have to check in with Marvel Rivals at some point, Richie, just because it's free and it's there, and we're both Marvel fans, and it makes sense. There's got to be something there. Remember when Concord could barely get past like 2,000 players, and Marvel Rivals, another team shooter, set in kind of spacey stuff, is just out there smashing it.
But there's a £40 difference in price.
There's also an IP attached to it. Hi-Fi Rush developer does not guarantee that we're going to be getting Hi-Fi Rush in the future, which is a bit baffling to me. It's like, remember, the mid Hi-Fi Rush got all this praise last year. Last year? When did it come out? Either way, then Tango Gameworks was shut down by Microsoft, and then it was acquired by Krafton, who are the PUBG people. And like the natural assumption was like, well, they're going to go straight into a Hi-Fi Rush 2. Like that's why they've picked up Tango, not for Ghostwire Tokyo, for this. And then now the head of the studios came out and basically said, we, and I quote, "We are considering a sequel positively. We're not at the stage where we can say specifically, this is what we're going to do. Many of our staff loved Hi-Fi Rush, so we feel like we have options. We're currently at the stage of considering various opportunities." And I feel like I want to grab the guy and shake him and be like, if you do anything other than Hi-Fi Rush, you are a fool.
I don't know. I think sometimes if you want to treat your IP with respect, sometimes not rushing into something makes more sense. Wait till you have the story, whatever it is that game needs. But if they just went, here's Hi-Fi Rush 2, it's just more Hi-Fi Rush, it might probably wouldn't land as well.
Yeah.
Like some of the charm would be lessened. So just... They're not saying no, but it just sounds like they're just exploring what that game could be. Yeah,
well, the head of Krafton, when they acquired them, said that there was a build for a Hi-Fi Rush sequel that was 6 months into development already when they acquired them. So that they've already laid the groundwork for it, unless they've had this like phenomenal different idea, and now they're part of Krafton, maybe they have more freedoms that they had before under Microsoft, and now they're just like, oh shit, we have either the money or the time to make something even bigger and better. Great. Or maybe Hi-Fi Rush is, to give them something special. So, I mean, if they know what's right, I always entrust the developers with their own work, but it just makes me think, like, so we're not going to get a Hi-Fi Rush sequel sooner than expected? But it seems like an odd choice, but more on that in the future. And then the final point I want to get to was Unpacking. I don't know if you've played Unpacking yet, actually, Richie.
I haven't.
It's great. It's such a nice little, like, just cozy game. It basically tells a story of someone who moves out of the parents' house, moves into college, goes through life, gets a boyfriend, girlfriend, leaves them, comes back to living back at the parents after moving out. Like, basically the experience of, like, life. And it's all told through, basically, a game where you unpack everything at each move and you put it in. It's all isometric. It's just point and click, essentially. You put the toaster in, you put the kettle into the area, you put the boxes away. You basically are unpacking. It's a very easy platinum. You just have to unpack everything throughout the different ages. Very cheap. I think it's an indie game that probably costs less than a tenner. It's got really chill out music the whole time. But the story article comes because unpacking did so well, but every digital storefront seems to be hammered with clones of fake AI-driven games that are actually nothing like the original. And the developers basically comment on, he keeps going to, like, Nintendo specifically is in the story, but he said it's impacting his game that these cheap fakes that rock up on the storefront that have, like, a similar name or a similar art style for the cover art, they're tricking players into buying the wrong thing. Like, if I said to you now, I've just described unpacking to you in our audience, and you go to the Nintendo eStore, the PlayStation storefront, and there's a game called Unpacked, and it looks similar, and it's cheaper, you could be tricked into buying the same game and thinking, well, I spent £5 on that, and it was nothing like Chris described.
Yeah, what the hell was Chris talking about? This game's terrible.
Yeah, and then it's like, actually, no, it's because on the storefront, there's right now there's 6. One's the genuine article, and the other 5 are just like pictures of AI-promoted living rooms called Unpacking New Chapters, Unpacking Universe, Unpacking Chill Music Pack, Unpacking Haunting Locations. So it even has unpacking in the title. And it's on sale, so there's like promotions to actively drive it up the storefront as well, in like the this week sales and stuff and weekend sales. And it's like, I'm fed up with this shovelware, finding it through. Like, these storefronts for me, PlayStation and Xbox included, they need better curation. Like, someone needs to be a gatekeeper of your platform, because you're doing yourself a disservice by not promoting the people who make great games for you. And it's annoying.
Yeah.
You see it all the time.
There needs to almost be like a benchmark for quality, and like to kind of like, this is one of the things where the title of this game sounds very familiar, especially the kind of looks like add-on packs and stuff. Unpacking Music Pack or whatever it's called. That should be a flag, and they go, well, actually, this sounds like a pack for a game that's already on our store, but it's published by someone else, it's developed by someone else. Let's give them a ring. Yeah. Or let's an auto-generated email going, this game has come on the store, confirm this is you. One click from the developer and go, yeah, that's us, and it goes through. And if it goes no, it gets blocked and goes into investigation. They need to kind of up these processes. It's a grey area though. You don't want to stop small developers who are genuinely working to produce decent games, but you do want to kind of stop this, like the pseudo scam artists, where technically it's not a scam. It's just that they're clearly trying to trick you into thinking you're buying something that it's not.
Yeah. But
you are actually buying what is described. It's that kind of, it's where marketing goes into like the dark art. It's a dark art of marketing, where marketing should be about, this is what's great about our thing. Where they're going, this is what's great about their thing, buy ours. It's kind of sleight of hand.
It is, yeah. It's all like a trades technique, isn't it? And you see it in like real world with like yellow price tags and stuff, and this is on sale, but it's only a penny cheaper, but it's technically on sale, so you're kind of drawn in. But yeah, it's been, the developers tweeted out basically saying it's been over 2 weeks, they're still on the eShop. Nintendo hasn't responded to our reports of these scams, which are using our trademark game name and purposely tricking Nintendo customers into buying cheap fakes. He then goes on to say that, actually, like, I want to be clear, I'm a huge Nintendo fan. It's my favourite platform and one of my favourite game studios. I just want them to take action of these fake games, that they're cashing in on misleading customers and using Unpacking's name and reputation to do so. Since then, they have actually removed it from certain storefronts, but they're still available in Asian markets, it would seem, and certain South African markets. So it's like, it's not a thing that's uncommon, but I do think just the general curation of games needs to be honed in a little bit. There was an Unpacking clone that was also on iOS and Google, because I think mobile storefronts are the same for this kind of thing.
Mobile storefronts are terrible for it.
The scam one topped the most downloaded charts. So imagine like working hard and making a game that got loads of plaudits, and then you're seeing basically a clone of it that's took all your ideas,
all your money. That's livelihood.
And it's making a profit off the back of it. So I think there's more that can be done. But it's nice to see that they've took something. But yeah, you just need someone who is loosely aware of the games industry as a whole to just see these submissions come through and go, like at a glance, you and me could sit there and like on Tinder and just go swipe no, swipe no, swipe no, AI.
Yeah, the problem. This is where I think they probably need to update things, because there's probably a lot of content that goes through the store. So having manual, manual checks for every single game is probably not viable. But maybe there should be things where they have algorithms set up, use AI to detect, this game contains a lot of AI developed content, which not going to get into a conversation right now about whether that's good or bad.
Yeah.
Because it can be useful tools, especially for small developers.
Yeah.
But then that should be a flag that then causes a manual check and go, this game has a lot of AI generated content. The title, it's titled very similar to a game that's already been published.
Yeah.
Let's put this one on hold. Sometimes it might just be give a quick phone call to the publisher and going, this game, is this a genuine thing? Because it's been flagged. And go, provide the documentation. Yep, all looks fine. Onto the storefront, or if it goes, oh no, you are just some random AI games farm that's just kind of churn out low quality derivative content just for cheap money that tries to manipulate people into buying your stuff thinking it's something else. That should be a case of, your publishers, entire publishers banned, and we're withdrawing all of your content from the store. I would be hardcore with it. If you're trying to manipulate people into thinking your games are someone else's, your entire lot's gone. Like
it is that just like, again, the storefronts should be safeguarding their own customers and the quality of their own product by doing this, because like, let's face it, the seasonal stuff, I guarantee you now, if I go on the Nintendo eShop, there will be some kind of game called Christmas Elf Festival, Christmas Elf Market, Santa's Workshop Simulator, something like that, which will have an image that looks like a lovely Christmas setting, mocking some kind of video game like Overcooked or something like that. And it will be like the most basic point and click like card game with maybe the most little assets that are built into it. And it'll be 99p, and they'll probably sell a couple thousand units. But it's absolute shit drivel that doesn't deserve to be on the storefront. And they'll do it for Halloween, and they'll do it for Easter, and they'll do it for every big thing that'll come out. Oh, there's a new Star Wars game out that's like Space Simulator X. It happens for everything, but better curation is needed. Similar in the TV world, Richie. Better curation is needed across TV platforms. And our final story for the week is Amazon's game-inspired Secret Level anthology series has been renewed for a second series. It was announced by Amazon last week as Season 1 wrapped up. There's going to be new stuff coming in the future. Had a chance to check out any of this? I know our audience last week. I watched the Space Marine one. It's like once I think Yovar, someone in our audience, said it was like only 20 minutes a piece. So I had to look through and thought, which IP have I got the most interest in? I'll be honest, Season 1, not that much for me, realistically. The Pac-Man one is on my radar because the Pac-Man game we saw at the Game Awards that had like the weird Metroidvania evil Pac-Man vibes. That's apparently in this episode. So I'm curious to check that out. But the Space Marine one was great. It was just 20 minutes of brutal Space Marine action in the most stunning animation I've ever seen for Space Marine 40k. Like, it looked beautiful, the fights, the choreography, the lore immediately, and it links in with Captain Titus from Space Marine. So I was like, sweet, I would watch a whole movie of that. But the rest of it not so interesting, but good to know it's been renewed. I'd like to see them branch out and maybe try a different IP, because I'll be honest, I looked at like Concord and I was like, no. Looked at Pac-Man, I was like, no.
Did they do a Concord one?
Yeah.
Oh, didn't it come out after Concord was already being pulled as well?
Yeah.
I remember that. Like,
level, I'll get the list. Level, episode.
Yeah, that just didn't work. You never know. I wonder what would have happened if it came out before Concord was launched. It might have been one of them things that just got people go, oh, this is an interesting IP. I'm now interested in the game.
So there is episode 1's Dungeons and Dragons, which again did interest me. Episode 2 is Sifu. Episode 3 is New World. Amazon game, makes sense. So they can do a TV series based on the game, but they can't put it on Amazon Luna.
Yep.
Go figure. Unreal Tournament was 4. Warhammer 5. Pac-Man 6. Crossfire 7. Armored Core 8. The Outer Worlds 9. Mega Man at 10. Exodus Odyssey at 11, Spelunky at 12, Concord at 13, good lucky 13 for Concord, Honor of Kings, never even heard of that, for 14, and Playtime, not heard of that, for 15. So 15 episodes, and out of that list, you can see why maybe Space Marine, like Mega Man, maybe Outer Worlds, I'm curious, but all in all, no IP that really resonates with me outside of Space Marine, so that's why. But it was great from what I watched. And hopefully if we get a second anthology season, we kind of just get more games shown off.
Hopefully, yeah.
But other than that, Richie, that does bring us to an end of this special Merry, Merry Christmas episode of the Gamer Guild Podcast. Of course, your weekly show where we get together to round up all the week's video game news. And we do that every single week, except for next week, because next week is our Game of the Year episode. Next Monday, which will be like New Year's Eve, maybe, I'm not too sure, but we'll keep our regular cadence. We like to end every show by looking at this day in video game history. We're recording on December the 22nd. Richie, anything in the yesteryears that jumps out to you?
Golden Axe.
Golden Axe.
1989.
As old as us.
Although I think my memories are more of Golden Axe 2 than 1, but
I think mine
still,
are too.
Golden Axe.
Golden Axe, good shout. Batman, the original video game on the NES, came out 35 years ago as well. What else have we got? South Park.
N64.
Oh yeah, South Park. That was a great game on the N64.
It was, yeah.
When you could piss on the snowballs and throw them at people as
chickens.
well. At chickens, yeah.
Turkeys, wasn't it?
That was one of them, similar to like
Gobbles.
Hogwarts Legacy vibes, where like that was the first time you could explore the location of South Park in fully 3D, and it was like, so that's where the school is in relation to Kyle's house and Kenny's house, and
the vibe.
They did.
Like where Hogwarts Legacy was so awesome, like just wandering around Hogwarts, and it did feel like you were there.
Mm-hmm.
South Park kind of did that years before, obviously.
Yeah.
To a lesser degree, but
so many polygons.
Like 20 years. Yeah, there's like 20 years between them games, so reasonable.
Shout out. Kingdom Hearts 2, 19 years ago. Yeah. Shout out to the Kingdom Hearts series.
9 years ago, Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel. Really liked that game. Didn't ever get the platinum because it was just too complicated, too much. It required like another full playthrough and stuff. And I never actually got around to playing 2.
It happens.
Yeah.
27 years ago in Japan, 1997, we got the original Gran Turismo, which of course was going to be one of PlayStation's best-selling IP. Actually, speaking of Gran Turismo, do I have it at the ready? No, I don't. I might have put it away. I'm growing my PlayStation collection.
Yes.
I got a copy of Gran Turismo 2.
Because it also came out 25 years ago.
Oh, did it?
On December 23rd, yeah.
Oh, sweet. That's perfect time then. I can show off my purchase of Gran Turismo 2. Really good copy, actually. I was really happy with this one. I had it back in the day, but I had a chipped version of it. We had, I know it was my parents' choice to get that one. So I thought, because it's such a rich part of PlayStation history, I couldn't not have it in my collection. Like, I've got the later games, but then I fell off Gran Turismo massively. But back then, it was like, this shit looks so real. And what was cool about this particular version, Richie, is it had 2 discs. One for essentially the campaign, and one for the arcade. So you got arcade mode disc and the actual.
That's cool.
And I thought, the color palette, and I was like, okay, I've got to have that one. Real driving simulation in there. 600 cars. And guess what? They've not been pulled from the storefront because they're all on the disc.
Yeah. So, you probably have to unlock a lot of them, but they're there.
No microtransactions and no downloads. It's all just there, stored away. And actually, I've also got a tease for our Game of the Year episode for next week for people tuning about it. I also picked something else up from my retro collection. Just going to tease the top there to talk about.
It's a blue box.
It's a blue box.
What could be in it?
What could be in it? You'll have to stay tuned to find out. Because it's not on this day in video game history. And then nothing comes out on Christmas Day, right? I take it. Who would be foolish enough to release a game on Christmas Day?
Well, there is some. Penguin Wars came out in 1985 on the NES.
Classic Christmas Day
Wacky
release.
Races, 1991 on the NES.
Wacky Races.
I used to love a bit of Wacky
I guess
Races.
Galaxian as well. Galaxian's like... Oh, I can't think of it. Space Invaders. Yeah. Galaxian.
Yeah. Tomba on the PlayStation 27 years ago.
Wow, why would you come out on Christmas Day? Gears of War Judgment. Xbox
Pokemon
360.
Bank, 11 years ago.
Fair enough.
It seems to be like a trend of like in like 20, 30 years ago, stuff did come out on Christmas Day.
That was a thing.
And then when you go down the list on the Game FAQ site we're using, it gets like very sparse in the last like 10 years.
I mean, there's the shout out to what you just mentioned. On Boxing Day, 33 years ago, Golden Axe 2.
Nice.
So get down to the Boxing Day sales and pick up a full price game because it ain't going to be on sale. Why not? But yeah, great episode. Great year in video games coming to a wrap. Of course, is this the last episode of the year? Oh no, the other one goes out on the 30th. So we'll sneak one more in the Game of the Year episode. But yeah, thank you for tuning in, everyone. Thank you for listening. Of course, the absolute merriest of Christmases to all you and your families, loved ones, this festive season. Go away, enjoy all the food, be merry, drink wine, mulled wine, whatever you want. And we'll see you for our Game of the Year conversation. Do like, subscribe, ring that bell so you kept in the loop. Thank you, everyone, of course, for helping us reach that 2K mark. It's the best Christmas present we could have possibly asked for. My name's been Chris.
I've been Richie.
We've been the GamerGuild Podcast. And remember, folks, play wherever makes you the happiest. We'll see you on the Game of the Year watch. Goodbye.
Bye.